morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. We are rocking our 73rd world's most exciting classroom event since the Oosterschelde set sail from Plymouth way back in August 2023. We pretty much haven't missed a weekly event. Generally during Christmas holidays, we might calm things down a little bit, but actually the last few months, we've been doing 2 events a week. We've done about a dozen events for classrooms in Australia and New Zealand and the surrounding areas. So that's usually Wednesday nights here in North America. Where is the ship right now? That's always a question on students' minds. So let's get the map in here, make it a little bit bigger. I like this view here. This is kind of cool. We've got an Antarctica-centric view here on our map, and you can see this massive expanse of the Pacific Ocean that we have crossed. It took 7 weeks. We had Mara and Tom checking in with us, either pre-recorded and then live when the time zones got friendlier, all the way here to the Falklands. This is our second time in the Falklands. The first time was after our crossing of the Atlantic and as we headed down the coast of South America. We had Darwin leaders join us there and we did some projects. This time around, it's just about a week stop where we have new supplies coming on board, because you can imagine fruits and vegetables were in short supply after 7 weeks crossing the Pacific. And then just a little time for the camera operators to get out and do a little bit of filming. New passengers are probably on board right about now, and the ship should set sail maybe today, maybe tomorrow on our next crossing, which is another pretty big feat. This is going to take several weeks. First stop will be South Georgia. So hopefully we'll get some great footage in the field with penguins. With any luck, we'll be able to do something live from South Georgia in a few weeks. I will keep you posted. The next stop will be Tristan da Cunha. And if I back up here, you can see that it is a speck in the Atlantic Ocean. It is the most remote inhabited island on the planet. I think between 200 to 300 people live there, but it is incredibly hard to land there with a ship. There's no port. Basically, the weather has to be good to anchor, drop the dinghy in, and go to shore. If we get there and the weather's no good, we really can't stick around. We're just going to have to pass on by and continue our way to Cape Town, where we'll be for a few weeks. We'll have a ton of Darwin leaders. We'll have live events from the field. I'll be there in Cape Town. Hopefully we'll do some live shark dives and other fun things like that. It should be a lot of fun. I mentioned wildlife in the Falklands. The last few weeks I've talked about the Falklands as being remote and rugged and windswept, but there's a ton of wildlife: seabirds, porpoises, dolphins, and whales in the waters. We've got elephant seals. We've got lots of species of penguins, 5 species to be exact. And Stu, our expedition leader, was in the Falklands, and he recorded a little clip here I want to share with you today to highlight the penguins in the Falklands. These are the king penguins, the second largest penguins in the world. So let's take a look at this little clip here together, and then we'll meet today's guest. So here's the clip.
Welcome to Volunteer Point. There's about 3,000 pairs of these beautiful king penguins nesting behind me in this rookery. They're really beautiful and they nest here all year round, rearing their chicks. So let's go have a look at them. Many places in the world where you've got king penguins and sheep. Look over there in the background. They're pretty amazing. These two animals live side by side here in the Falkland Islands.
Okay, so kind of a fun little clip there. We'll have Stuart join us maybe in a few weeks and kind of update us. He's been on a few expeditions. He was in the Falklands, so we'll get a little update from him. We'll have him come in and join us during one of our upcoming events. And you heard the wind there. I left the wind in there for you to hear. If you looked at the surroundings, there's very, very few trees. It is very much windswept. The wind is a pretty common sound and occurrence there in the Falklands. All right, so I think we should bring in our first guest for today. Just to give you a quick rundown, we'll have Rosa hang out with us for a bit. We've got our experiments to look at. I've got a cool little clip from one of our Darwin leaders who joined us last night in the Australia event. And then we'll wrap up today with the curiosity of the week. So let's introduce our speaker for today. Joining us will be Rosa Vasquez Espinoza. She is a Peruvian chemical biologist, a National Geographic explorer, and an award-winning artist. So she integrates her Andean Amazonian heritage and learnings in traditional medicine, kind of a backyard natural pharmacy. And she works that into what she does day to day. She's the founder of Amazon Research International, where she unites science and advocacy, collaborating with indigenous communities to illuminate and protect Amazonian ecosystems. And in May 2025, she's releasing her first book, The Spirit of the Rainforest, How Indigenous Wisdom and Scientific Curiosity Reconnects Us to the Natural World. So joining us from the UK, let's bring Rosa in live. Hey, Rosa, how are you?
Hi, so lovely to see you and everyone. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, and I should mention, I believe this year you were named an Explorers Club 50, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've got Explorers Club members who join us on every leg doing research. So it's great to have you joining us and carrying on a little bit of what we're doing with the club.
Thank you so much. No, the Explorer Club has been fantastic, so I'm glad to be able to be part of the family.
All right. Well, to the classrooms tuning in, don't be shy. Say hey in the chat. I already see someone in the Netherlands saying hi. I see Caesar in Nicaragua saying hi. Send your questions in there. We can work those in as well. But for now, Rosa, let's let you take over for a little bit.
Amazing. Thank you. And welcome everyone from literally everywhere around the world. It's such a pleasure to get to connect with you and briefly share more about what I do, why I do it, and where my work takes me. So I'll just give you a little intro first about what is it that I do. I'm a scientist and I'm an explorer. And so that literally means I get to go to some really remote, sometimes dangerous, but definitely beautiful places in our planet, from rainforests to oceans to other locations around, to look and study natural systems, whether that is trees or water, rivers, the flora and fauna associated. So, what animals are there? What plants are there? And really getting an idea about what is missing. What is it? The things that we don't know yet. Those are the things that I'm more curious about. So really, it all comes down to asking questions. What is it that I find curious that we may not know much about yet? And where can I add new information? And really, I see all of that process of exploration as playful. We get to reinvent how certain things are done, and some things seem obvious once you do it, but nobody may have done it yet. And that's really where we push the boundaries and what I like to think we are doing with my work. But before I get into some examples of what does that actually look like, I would like to speak briefly about how did it all start. I grew up in Peru, so that's in South America, and I had quite a unique upbringing. My family comes from both the Andean mountains as well as the Amazon rainforests. And since I was a kid, I got to visit our multiple family members in all of these really remote places. So here, I think I'm 7 in this photo. I'm playing with my cousin in the Amazon River. We are on a traditional wooden boat. We used to play with animals, collect fruits directly from our gardens around. And then I went to the capital city where I attended school. But it was that time that I spent playing outdoors and just getting to connect with the plants, the animals around, the soils, being curious about why is it that certain animal is consuming this plant, or why is it that my grandmother, for example, would take specific leaves and flowers or roots from a specific tree or flower to be able to make teas and cocktails that would help us whenever I had a stomachache or a headache. I was just so curious about everything that it seemed like we were obtaining from nature. I wanted to understand, how is it that nature is giving us medicine? How is it that nature has this beautiful capacity to feed us? And can we use some of that information to help nature back? And so it was really that play that I had with nature since I was so young that encouraged me to try to answer some of those questions with science. And so I started to really fall in love with biology and chemistry, and that led me to pursue a full career in that field. So I moved to the United States when I was 18 years old and to pursue a dual career in biochemistry and molecular biology. I wasn't fully clear as to what I wanted to do with that just yet. And I think that's so normal because we have so many ideas when we're growing up. We want to do so many things sometimes, and we're still figuring it out. And that's completely normal. In that process, I had the opportunity to do multiple internships in other countries, learning about different cultures. And that really just strengthened my own commitment to want to go back home and answer some of these scientific questions. So I pursue a doctorate at the University of Michigan and a postdoctorate. So many, many years basically in the laboratory, trying to use all of these new tools that we have in science, biotechnology, medicine to try to answer some of these questions. In that process, I became a National Geographic explorer. So I was able to join a group of really, really great individuals that are either scientists or photographers or historians or storytellers that are also just very curious and passionate about our planet and want to answer new questions in new ways. As part of my work now, I not only do science and conservation, but I also do a lot of work in science communication and even including as a TV presenter. So I've done some really cool collaborations with NASA, for example, presenting for some of their events, as well as with National Geographic, Disney, and even with the Discovery and Science channel, where I participated in season 1 of Secrets in the Jungle. Really, really fun opportunity. And so, what does my work look like now? I run an organization that is based in Peru, where we lead science that has impact on conservation, and we do all of that work with indigenous and local communities. So, communities, people, youth that may not necessarily have access to laboratories or even to this technique or this knowledge, so that we can get inspired from them about their unique relationship with nature, and then they can also get inspired from us about these modern science techniques, and together we can not just answer questions but create positive change that protects spaces that are endangered. So one of those, it's called the Boiling River. You may have never heard about it, but the name alone tells you so much. Boiling River, it means boiling waters. As you can see here, the water below my feet is so hot that there is literally scorching hot vapor rising above. You can physically see it in the photo. And it's actually what you don't get to see quite in the photo is that hot vapor, it's almost like as if I'm in a sauna, and it's hitting my face and my hair. It's making me all wet, and it can make it really exhausting. So the process of exploration can be dangerous, and it's definitely tiring at times. But the next question that came to my head when I first visited this place many, many years ago was, can anything live in these waters? It's so extreme, it's so, so hot. And all the locals said, no, nothing lives there, because if an animal falls accidentally, like this poor tapir, then it dies quite quickly, right? You have very, very hot water. Nothing can survive that. But through my training and eye of an explorer as well as a scientist, I wanted to go farther. I said, okay, maybe larger forms of life like animals cannot survive, but I knew that there's something we know as microbes. And there are many different kinds of microbes. This is a form of life that is just so tiny, tiny that you typically need a microscope to look at, but they live quite literally everywhere. They have even adapted to extreme locations like volcanoes or the depths of our oceans, and they are known as extreme microbes. And so that's what I proposed. I said, well, maybe larger forms of animals cannot survive, but I bet you microbes can, and I bet you we know nothing about them. And why would we even be interested in learning what kind of microbes live here? Because it could give us an idea about how they interact with these waters and how they help the different flora and fauna that are around this river that don't seem to mind that it's too hot. They have adapted to these extreme conditions. And then when we think a little farther, well, perhaps that could act like a natural laboratory to study climate change. So, really interesting and exciting questions that I was able to complete throughout my PhD, where we created the first map of these extreme microbes and started to gain insights. And like I said, it seems like maybe nothing lives there, but this is just one of the short videos that we capture from microbes that were actively living at 99 Celsius or 210 Fahrenheit. Those are temperatures so extreme that you will literally immediately burn your finger, for example, if you were to put that into boiling water, such as that. But here you see these tiny microbes. They are living their lives, they are moving slowly, they are pretty much thriving. But my work goes now beyond that. I lead multiple teams across the Amazon rainforest, and we are getting to work with really beautiful other life forms, such as, for example, the tapir. They also know it as the Amazonian cow. They're very friendly animals. They like to lick you, lick your face. They can get quite big, and they are very gentle and docile. And unfortunately, they are in danger in certain areas. They used to be abundant, now we cannot find them anymore, and they're really important for the ecosystem. If we have tapirs in certain regions, we know that the flora around is also healthy, we know that the soils are going to be empowered, and so it really serves as such an important species. So together with some indigenous groups, we are trying to not only understand where tapirs are in an area that we know it's in danger, but also can we understand where they're migrating to and from, so we can create like a corridor, a route that protects these special animals that also have a sacred meaning for the locals. They see them as friends, and so they want to protect them not just for biodiversity but also for their culture. And we're adding a really interesting spin on that, which is that we had heard from some of the locals that some of these tapirs feed on medicinal leaves. The same way, when we are feeling sick, we may go to the doctor to ask for some medicine. These animals seem to go to the jungle to look for medicines themselves, certain plants or barks, similarly to how my grandmother would treat me when I was sick. So we think this is such a fascinating new topic, and hopefully next time I can tell you more about it. Another project that I'm really excited about, and I'll share a short clip on, is on a special kind of bee. And I'll let you watch this for a second. I don't want you to think that I'm just crazy for posing with bees, because these are not just any kinds of bees. These are stingless bees. And you may have never heard about them because we typically grew up thinking that all bees are going to sting us. But that's not true. There are a unique family of stingless bees. They literally don't have a stinger, so they cannot sting you. They have other ways to protect themselves, so they can bite, for example. And I spent many hours with a photographer in National Geographic to take these photos so that within just a few seconds we can show you a different side of bees. All of the sudden, by looking at this photo, you may ask yourself, why is she posing with bees? Why doesn't she have any type of protection? And that gets you to want to ask more questions, and then perhaps learn that these are different and unique kind of bees that we find in the Amazon, but also in other tropical rainforests in our planet, such as Costa Rica, Mexico, Australia, Asia, and even Africa. And I particularly became so fascinated by these bees because the locals in the Amazon have a very unique relationship to them. They see them as guardians, as wise spirits that they learn from, because They see the bees working as a team, as a family, as a community, everybody having a role, everybody helping each other, and they aim to live like that. And so I think that as such a powerful and beautiful metaphor for this human and animal relationship that we can all learn and get inspired from. They make a unique kind of medicinal honey as well. We've done quite a lot of scientific research on that, to show that indeed it's not just medicinal honey because someone says it. Science is proven that this honey is quite different to any other honey you've ever tried, because it helps the locals treat different diseases, from infertility to eye infections to even COVID. This is not just the only biodiversity we have in the Amazon, though. There are such many more life forms that are so inspiring that we can also learn from. That although my team, we may not be working directly with, we appreciate and support other groups that are. For example, a dolphin you may have never heard of are pink dolphins. They are unique to the Amazon rainforest. And as you can see in this photo that one of my team members took, they just look like taken from a Disney movie. Absolutely beautiful and unique. And it's also important for them to be known so that we can protect them. On the other side, we also have unique snakes, such as one that we know as the Amazonian bushmaster. We have had to face some of them because in some of the areas where we work at night tends to be their habitats. So it's a snake that we need to be careful of because it is venomous, but it's also just a beautiful species. There are jaguars, of course. Unfortunately, there are less now. So there are so many groups actively trying to protect this important and beautiful mammal. And one of my friends also took this photo, just showcasing the beauty of this biodiversity. And last but not least, something that I may be able to tell you a bit more next time, it's glowing life. The Amazon, there are certain areas that the trees get so dense that it gets quite dark. And when you live in constant darkness, that encourages life and nature to evolve in very unique ways. And one of that is that some of these life forms have the ability to glow when you put them under certain lights. So this is a photo of a scorpion. Most scorpions in the world will glow when you shine UV light to them. So this was a really great photo with capture, but we have been able to see other life forms that glow, like crickets as well as frogs. So really exciting. And I tell many, many of these stories and even more of my expeditions that I've been leading for the last 10 years, uniting traditional wisdom with modern science and applying it in ways that are actively protecting our planet together with our people. In my first book that is coming out in a few months, and I encourage you to take a look. I'll be doing a lot of educational content to go along with it as well. Thank you so much, you guys, for your attention, and I'll be happy to dive into any question you may have from anything regarding my work. Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. Rosa, thank you so much for a great presentation. The Boiling River is such a wild spot, a boiling river in the middle of the Amazon, but you are doing so much great work throughout the Amazon. I was able to visit Manu National Park for a week last year, and it was pretty much one of the best experiences of my life. I saw a wild jaguar, which was couldn't get much better than that. But you get to spend there as your office, as your second office. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's I'm so lucky to be able to do this work. It's such hard work. You have seen Manu is such a beautiful space. It takes so much time to get there. Some of the places we get to go is even farther. But we need to be doing this work now because their threats are active and we have still the chance to be able to save all this beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, the groups we have joining us, don't be shy. Use the chat sidebar and send in some questions, and we will work those in. But I'll start off with the first question here, Rosa, which is, when is your next time back in the Amazon going to be?
It's just in a few months. I'm actually back there in June. We're going to a completely new space, very, very far as well. We're gonna be many hours in a boat ride, and we're going to an area that it's between the Amazon and the Andes. So we are talking. Imagine high mountains, so you have to really do a lot of heavy trekking, but it's still luscious jungles. I'm really excited.
Yeah, sounds great. I Yeah, I hope you see an Andean bear. Have you ever seen one of those in the wild?
No, but this area that we're heading to, it's a preferred home. So crossing fingers.
All right, fingers crossed for you. Okay, a few more questions here coming in the chat. Caesar would like to know, how do you manage to take your things, to and around the boiling river without falling or dropping anything in?
We have to be extremely careful. I have had friends that have accidentally dropped the really expensive and fancy cameras. And so, you don't really have much time if something falls. So you have to just be very mindful, carry the minimum. So in my case, we had to adapt a lot of our techniques. And instead of bringing giant microscopes, we had to find ways to use very tiny equipment that still gives us the results that we need, but that also allows us to do this work in as safe as possible.
Yeah, I remember one of our earlier events, you talked about, I think it's a Spider-Man crawl, this wall you have to go across.
Yes.
I know you were pretty scared the first time you did that, but it's just things you have to do to get to different sites and to get the data that you want to get.
Yeah, exactly. Exploration, we also have to, keep up with our wellness, make sure that we are fit to be able to do some of this work and be very careful. And all of this is really teamwork. So
Yeah.
whenever we're doing this work, right, making sure we're communicating well, that nobody's just going rogue, making sure we're listening to those that have even more experience and so on.
Okay. All right. We've got a question here about the tapir jawbone. They're wondering if they saw plants there in the river with the jawbone. Are there plants in the river?
No, no. There are different kinds of microscopic plants. You can call them like that. So they look like plants, but they're really just forms of microbes. Like that green color that you were seeing there, that's not plants. Those are microbes that have grown so much that now they make such a large family and community that they become visible to the naked eye.
All right, awesome. Miss Lightborn's crew is hanging out with us on the east coast of Canada, and they're wondering if the boiling river goes by any other name.
Shanaitin which is the traditional native name, and it means boil with the heat of the sun. So it basically is showing us how the local people explain and see the river.
All right. Another question here. The picture with the bees, wasn't that, I mean, you weren't being stung, but they're wondering, wasn't that kind of annoying? Were they crawling in your nose? What was that like?
So those are bees that cannot sting. So I was not being stung. Luckily, I don't know if I could have posed with things that could sting, but like I said, they can bite. Luckily, in that we took 4 hours to take those photos, and some of them were getting really comfortable trying to go into my eye. So I couldn't keep my eyes open too long because they like the eye, basically the kind of water mineral that we have in our eyes. So they like to go for that or tears. So they were also trying to go up my nostril, which was making me laugh, but I couldn't really move so much. So then it was making, causing like my eyes to tear up, and then they would like to go to the tears. So it was a really complicated process. And also, you cannot see from the photos, but the ground where I was standing, it wasn't flat. So I had to be like with my legs positioned in a very uncomfortable and weird way for 4 hours trying to look natural. So it was a whole challenge, but it also felt like a very meditative experience because I had to calm down if I wanted the bees to also be comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so stingless bees, we know they're in the Amazon, but do they live in other places in the world?
They do. So if you follow the equator line around our globe, that you will be able to find stingless bees. They are native to our equator. So Costa Rica, Mexico, Australia, places in Asia, in Africa. They are not native to North America, but I have seen some in California that may have probably migrated from Mexico at some point. And actually, the ones that I saw in California, they were in San Diego, and they had adapted to feed on poison ivy. So the honey that they were making was also poisonous, which is quite interesting.
All right. Well, building on that a little bit, this follow-up question is about the honey. How do you think it was first learned or discovered that the honey had a medicinal value?
That is such a profound question, and it's actually something that we've been thinking about quite heavily for the last few years because not many ask themselves, how did we first learn stuff? And that's
Mhm.
a question that fascinates me. We have many theories. We have heard of some locals seeing ant eaters look for stingless beehives and getting their 2 meter long tongues inside because they cannot be stung and then stealing on or the stingless bees. We wonder if perhaps the anteaters went for the stingless bee honey not just because they were hungry, but because they needed some medicine as well, and perhaps that inspired the locals. That's just a question that we're hoping to answer at some point with camera traps and more studies.
All right. Well, I think this is a perfect question to wrap up on. And it's, do you have maybe a favorite moment that you go back to from being in the Amazon?
Wow, I have so many favorite moments, to be honest. Every trip I have a new favorite one. In my last trip just a few months ago, I was able to see capybara, which is like the largest rodents in our planet that they live in the Amazon. If you don't know them, look it up, capybara. They're absolutely gorgeous. So I saw a family of them. There was the mama and then the many little babies, and they were approaching the river to drink, and it was a really hot day, and it was an area that was quite dry, so I think they really needed to get to some water, and it was just such a beautiful appreciation to see them be like a family, and I just found that really beautiful.
All right. That's really cool. Well, Rosa, thank you so much for spending a little time with us today in our Darwin 200 World's Most Exciting Classroom. A beautiful place that you get to call home. It's so important right now, too, with the way our planet's changing, that we're preserving that indigenous knowledge, whether it's language, whether it's culture, because it is disappearing really fastly. We always talk about the animals disappearing, but culture is disappearing as well. So important that we're protecting that, too.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much for this space and for everyone for the really cool questions, and I hope to see you guys next time.
All right, Rosa, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See ya. All right, very cool to spend a little time with Rosa. In a previous event, it would have been months and months ago, I shared my experience in the Peruvian Amazon. I caught up with the ship in Lima and sailed from Lima to Salinas in Ecuador. But before I did that, I went early so I could spend some time in Manu National Park, a really remote, very untouched and pristine place in the Peruvian Amazon. And it was pretty much one of the best experiences of my life. No running water, no hot water, no electricity or internet, no people. We didn't see any people, just me and a guide. His name was Satu, on the river for a week. It was so cool. We saw amazing things. Macaws feeding on clay lakes. We saw tapirs, harpy eagles. Actually, we saw a harpy eagle nest with a baby eagle. And that eagle was only a few days old when I saw it. And Satu sent a picture recently of the eagle chick at 11 months old. So it was almost fully grown. It had its funny little head feathers. It was really cool to see that chick survived. And then best of all, we came around the corner in the canoe one day, and there was a jaguar swimming across the river. So we got to a few pictures of that jaguar before it disappeared back into the jungle. So I felt pretty lucky to be able to see a big cat like that. They're so elusive in the Amazon. I was just in the right place at the right time. So we're going to take a look at last week's experiment. We have a brand new experiment coming your way. We've got Curiosity of the Week is going to end the event, but in between those two, we will also have a check-in with a Darwin leader, Alexia, who is from New Zealand, but joined us when the ship was in Fiji. So lots to do before we say goodbye for this week. So let's get started with that first video. Let's update and take a look at our Making Amber experiment. Let's look at the results.
Welcome back, everyone. How did you get on creating your very own creatures in amber? Well, it's been about 48 hours since I poured the resin into these moulds, and I can feel it's gone completely hard. Well, let's take them out and have a little look how my creatures in amber have turned out. Wow, look, there's that little red beetle. He's perfectly preserved in that piece of resin amber. And this square one, this is a little trickier to get out. You might need the help of an adult to get your amber out of its mould. Look, there's that little green beetle, also perfectly preserved in this beautiful yellow amber.
If you look at pieces of real amber, you'll notice that the creatures preserved in them are preserved very differently from normal fossils, such as this fish. In regular fossils in stone, it's really only the hard bits of the animal, like the bones, that are clearly preserved, as you can see with this fish. But if you look at the creatures in a piece of amber, every single detail is perfectly preserved, including the three-dimensional shape of the creature, and even its colours, and also the really fragile parts of the animal, such as its eyes. This is why amber is often called the amber time machine, because it gives you the unique opportunity to glimpse ancient creatures at the very moment they got trapped inside amber, and they've remained perfectly preserved ever since. No other process of fossilization can give you anywhere near that amazing level of detail. Now let's have a look at how our creatures in amber have turned out. I really like these two, especially this red beetle here. Look, it's perfectly preserved in our resin amber. And because the mold was so smooth, we don't even need to have to polish them in any way. They're perfectly shiny and clear and see-through. That would make a perfect paperweight. You could make some creatures in amber just like these and give them as gifts to your teachers or friends or family at home. Well, I really hope you enjoyed exploring how creatures are preserved in amber, and I'd love to see photos of the amber creations that you make. Please send them in to classroom@darwin200.com. Thank you for watching and for taking part.
All right, so those turned out really, really well. It's something called resin epoxy. It comes in 2 little bottles. You can get them online. I could see them on Amazon. Would be an easy spot to probably track them down. Maybe a craft store. If you have a local craft store, you could probably find little bottles of it. And it wasn't too expensive. I think it was depending on the size of the bottles, between $10 to $20. And then you can make some really cool kind of fossilized creatures in amber. And we know it's very famous from the movie Jurassic Park, where they were able to extract dinosaur DNA from the mosquitoes. So yeah, it's even made its way into our culture, into media, and into movies, how well preserved things are fossilized in that way. So a shout out to Mr. Parker's crew in Victoria, British Columbia. They sent in some cool pictures of some little spiders, little plastic spiders that they put into their amber resin. So we'll have a gift card to send their way. So check your email in the next couple of days and you will see that there. We've got a brand new experiment this week. You have 2 weeks to try the experiment. Send in some pictures or a little video clip trying the experiment, either in your classroom or at home. And then you'll have a chance at an Amazon gift card as well. So let's share this upcoming experiment and see what we're going to get into today.
Welcome back, everyone. In today's experiment, we're going to create a simple electrical cell using lemons to power this little LED. To do this experiment, all you need are 3 lemons, some strips of zinc, but you can also use galvanized nails, which work fine, and some pieces of copper. You can also use pieces of copper wiring, strip off the plastic to expose the copper wire underneath, and make sure it's really clean so it has good contact to make your circuit work. Take your lemons and roll them around a few times to make sure all of the segments inside are well connected and the juice is freely flowing inside. I'll roll these ones properly. I think they're suitably juicy. Then take your strips of copper and zinc and place a strip of copper at one end of each lemon and a piece of zinc at the other. So you have to have one piece of copper and one piece of zinc in each lemon, just like this. Let's now do it for the other lemons. Make sure that the strips don't touch each other within the lemon. They've got to be separate. There we go. We'll place that one in there. You're then ready to connect your lemons using alligator clips. Connect a zinc side to a copper side and a zinc side to a copper side, making that alternating pattern. Then one more alligator clip here and one more to this last zinc strip at the end. So note the alternating copper, zinc, copper, zinc, copper, zinc pattern. You have to get that right, otherwise this won't work. We're now ready to see if we can light up this little electrode. Connect the alligator clip connected to the last copper strip to the longer positive leg of the LED. You might have to bend the LED's legs a little bit to make them attach. Then the alligator clip connected to the last zinc strip to the shorter negative side of the LED. And look, the LED turns on. Can you work out how these 3 lemons are powering this little LED light? Send in your best guess to classroom@darwin200.com for a chance to win an Amazon gift voucher prize. Join me next time to find the secrets of our lemon battery experiment. Good luck in replicating this experiment, and thank you for watching.
Okay, so that's pretty darn cool that we can power things with fruit, with those lemons. The materials are pretty easy to come by. I did a quick search online, just in Google. I looked for a lemon electricity kit, and you can get those wires and the pieces, depending on the kit you choose, anywhere from $3 to $15. So it depends on what you want to choose. It could be a fun thing to get for home or something for the classroom. So it's not too expensive. You could probably even take a trip to the hardware store and find most of those things, like those alligator clips and those little pieces of copper and zinc. So you have 2 weeks to give it a try. Take a picture, whether you try it at home or you try it in the classroom, and send those pictures to classroom@darwin200.com along with a little explanation. How are those lemons able to power something like an LED? You might even find kits that include a tiny little clock, which is kind of cool that you can power a clock, like a digital clock, with something like a handful of lemons. So classroom@darwin200.com, 2 weeks to give that a try. And then we have 1 week to do our growing yeast experiment left before we see the results next week. Okay, so we are going to have our Darwin leader join us. So she joined us last night. She joined us from New Zealand. So right now she's sleeping, but I recorded a little clip that I can share today. It's always fun to connect with our Darwin leaders who join us in the different ports. They're usually between 18 to 25. They're excited, young conservationists. They're passionate about inspiring youth. And so it's really fun to bring them to places around the world, pair them up on conservation projects, and see the cool videos and other media that they produce before they go back home to hopefully continue careers that will last decades and decades in conservation. So Alexia Hilbertito joined us last night. She is the founder of something called Girl Boss New Zealand. She's a 30 under 30 in Forbes magazine. And let's get to know her a little bit better and the project that she worked on while she was in Fiji with us. Was named to the Forbes 30 under 30. She's also a pretty sought after speaker, having spoken to more than 80,000 people around the world. And we were lucky enough to have her as one of our Darwin leaders when we were in Fiji. So let's get Alexia in here right now. Hey, Alexia.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Kia ora, talofa lava, and warm Pacific greetings. It is absolutely fantastic to be with you all today.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you with us. We want to kind of dial in a little bit on your experiences with the Darwin 200. And then I think we'll spend a little time talking about some of the other things you do, particularly Girl Boss NZ, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I have a lot of, I think, students tuning in probably get a little nervous about public speaking, but it sounds like that's something that you're pretty comfortable doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fantastic to be here and to share the incredible work of the Darwin 200 community.
Perfect. So let's get started. You were with us in Fiji. Can you tell us a little bit about the project that you worked with?
Yeah, absolutely. It was so special to be a Darwin leader in Fiji. I'm part Samoan, part Greek, part Samoan, but based in New Zealand. So to go to Fiji, which is also within the Pacific, was really special, and to be reconnected back to my ancestral Pacifica community. And my focus was really on sharing the Pacifica stories. And we did that in partnership with an organization called Nature Fiji, which is a local NGO based in Fiji. And our focus was on raising awareness of a little cicada, or what they call it in Fiji. It's called the Nanai. And this cicada is featured on the Fiji $100 bill. But what we found was when we went out to the community, and I would literally talk to people, like even if I was in the taxi from the airport, and I would ask them, I would show them this $100 bill, which had this little cicada on it. I said, do you know what this is? They would literally be like, is it a cockroach? I don't know what this bug is. So it's a really important and special insect for a lot of reasons. And so we really wanted to raise awareness about this, because I think so often we might see sort of animals on our money or in other sort of, or in different sort of places, but we don't know really the significance of it. So that was a huge part of this campaign, was raising awareness around what is that little bug on the $100 bill and why is it so important. Also, what's really special about this insect is that 2025 is the year of the Nanai, which is the year the Nanai rises out of the ground. And we'll play a video where you can learn about a little bit more about this. So we really wanted to build this hype and this excitement for 2025, which is what we aim to do in this video.
Okay. Just before we play that, the Nanai is a cicada species. So some of the students might be familiar with it. They have a pretty interesting life cycle, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really exciting is that they spend a lot of time in the ground, and then they only rise from the ground for 2 weeks. And it was really amazing because we saw that there was so many incredible stories when we asked the elders in the Vivaletu Hills of Fiji, where they would say, we actually knew, reflecting back on our childhood, that the year that the Nanai rises would be a really special and important year, and it would be a year of good luck or abundance. And when we were trying to break down, where does this come from, this idea that the year the Nanai rises is a year of abundance, we found that that belief came from the fact that they would rise up from the ground, and then when the Nanai fly around and then they mate and then they die, they would die in the water. And what happened was, suddenly all the fish in the rivers would get all of these little cicadas. So they'd basically get like free breakfast, lunch, and dinner just landing dead in the water. And so that would make the fish bigger and slower and easier to catch. So the idea that the year of the Nanai was a year of abundance or a year of good luck actually had a sort of a real story behind it, which we were able to uncover, which was pretty special and pretty cool.
All right. Well, let's take a look at your first video and then we'll continue from there. So bear with me for a moment while it loads on my end. Let's make sure I picked the right one too. That's pretty important. And there it is. It should be coming up right about now.
I bet you know what this is. It's a Fijian $100 bill. But who's this little guy?
A cockroach? A beetle? No, a nanai.
This is the Nanai. It's on the Fijian $100 note because this little bug is kind of a big deal. The Nanai, or the Fijian cicada, spends most of its life underground. Once every 8 years, something magical happens. The Nanai rises from the earth, sheds its shell, and reveals delicate wings. For just a few short weeks, it sings a song of love, calling out for a mate. So why is the Nanai on the Fijian $100 bill? To find out, let's learn the legend of the Nanai. Born from the Boronitu and Noimalu clans in the highlands of Viti-Levu in Fiji, the legend states that the year the Nanai emerges is a year of peace and abundance. 2025 is the year of the Nanai. It's re-emerging after 8 years. It represents rebirth and is a unique opportunity for you to shed the old and step into the new. Because 2025 is the year you make it happen. So we want to know, what's your dream for the year of the Nanai?
I want to become a certified plumber.
I want to become a professional rugby player.
Whatever your dream is, we want to see you bring it to life. Post it and use the hashtag Year of the Nanai.
All right. Very cool. It was a great video. Nice and catchy. Some great music. Yeah, lots of fun. And then, this is the year. So the year of peace, the year of plenty. Now, I'm wondering, do they have expectations for what it's like? Have things been changing with climate change? Are they expecting a lot to come out? Is it a mystery? What are they thinking is going to happen this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we want to do with this campaign is really raise awareness about the Nanai. And one of the ways in which we did that was we wanted to really emphasize that cultural significance, because we can only protect what we truly love and what we truly know. And I think so often when we look at the animals that get the most protection, they are things like the panda in China, or the eagle in America, or something which is really closely connected to the culture of the people. And so when we want to boost and encourage people to really value an animal, one of the best ways we can do it, or this was my thought process, is by really emphasizing that cultural piece there, so that people can really feel that emotional connection to it. And that was something that I was really deliberate about emphasizing when creating the video. And another thing I was really passionate about was making it super accessible. I think it's so important that when we're communicating about science to others, we do it in a way that's really engaging, that has a fun call to action, that is something that you can really relate to as a young person. And that's why we've got like some funny music in there and all sorts of random things, which was definitely a bit different to some other Darwin Leaders videos who were a little bit more formal. But I really wanted to reach out to the community and say, look, this is your story, by the community, for the community, and really tap into that emotional connection. And that's super important, because we know that in the Vivalutu Hills of Fiji, where the Nanai resides, it's currently at risk of a lot of deforestation. And we know that is the loss of the Nanai's home. And because they only come out once every 8 years, it actually can be very difficult to track that exact impact. So that's why we really want to draw attention and help people feel that emotional connection, so that they don't loan off their land to corporations, which is what's happening at the moment.
Yeah. Well, let's talk for a moment about your time in Fiji. Was this your first time in Fiji? And what was it like to get out and spend some time in the community?
I love Fiji. I've been many times before. I think that might have been like my 4th time that year to Fiji. I'm actually off to Fiji again in a couple of weeks. So beautiful place. Put it on your bucket list, people. If you have not been to Fiji, that needs to be top of the list. But it's something that is just a place unlike anywhere else in terms of the most beautiful water, the most beautiful food, culture, energy, vibe. I was so delighted. I'm going to be honest with you, when I got told that my port was going to be Fiji, I was like, cracked it. Could not be a more beautiful place to be based. So yeah, it's a place really special and important to me, also being Samoan as well, to be in really what is considered the home of the Pacific.
All right. And then let's talk about Girl Boss. So maybe tell our students a little bit about it, and how you came to found an organization.
Absolutely. So I started Girl Boss New Zealand, which is an organization for young women in high school who are passionate about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, maths, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And I was spurred to start this at 16 as a result of my own experiences, because at my co-ed high school, I was the only girl in my school's digital technology class, and later the only girl in my advanced physics class. And I'll go to coding competitions and science competitions and regularly be one of 2-3 young women in the room. And I remember sitting there as a 16-year-old and feeling really isolated and alone. And I thought, someone's really got to do something about this. And then I thought, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And so at 16, I started Girl Boss New Zealand, which has now grown to be New Zealand's largest organisation for young women, where we work with roughly 1 in 7 of all high school age young women across the country each and every year. And it's pretty amazing because I just started that when I was in school, and now it's my full-time job. And I get to work with young women, not just here in New Zealand, but also across Australia and the Pacific Islands. So really, really amazing journey. And I really encourage anyone out there, if you've got a passion or you've got an idea, to realize that you can actually execute on that idea and start today. I think so often we see the problems in the world around us and we feel helpless to solve them. But if you're someone out there who can identify a problem, then you are the best equipped person to actually go out there and solve that problem. And you don't need to wait until you reach a certain milestone. You don't need to wait until you finish high school. You don't need to wait until you get a university degree. You don't even need to wait until you get permission from somebody else. You can grant yourself that permission and you can actually step up and solve it today. So I really encourage any young person out there with an idea to feel really compelled to execute on that idea.
Okay, so that was a little excerpt from our Hangout with Alexia. In our previous World's Most Exciting Classroom event, the 11th event we did for classrooms in Australia and New Zealand. Hopefully, especially when we get around South Africa, we will have a whole bunch more Darwin leaders join us to share their stories, because it's always fun to hear what they're getting up to and the cool work they do, like Alexia and Girl Boss New Zealand. She's reaching a lot of youth, and it was awesome to have her as a Darwin leader. So to wrap up for today, we have our curiosities. So let's take a look at the answer to last week's curiosity of the week.
Welcome back, everyone. Last week, I asked you to try and identify these little objects here. If you remember, they had a very intricate little pattern to them, covered with ridges. What do you think these might be? Well, this is a very difficult curiosity to try and identify, but a few of you sent in the right answers. These are known as ray bars. They're actually the crushing teeth of rays that lived in oceans millions of years ago. These particular ones were found in Hampshire in England and date back about 45 million years from the present day. These are basically the teeth of rays that lived in waters of the ancient seas millions of years ago. And they would use these teeth to crush up and grind mollusks and other animals that they ate, just like rays do today. So if you guessed the teeth of ancient rays, you are absolutely right. Now let's find out who won this week's prize. Thank you for watching and for taking part.
Lots of good guesses this week. Lots guessed fossils. We had guesses like fossilized ferns, for example. We had guesses of different kinds of fossilized plants, like the stems. So we did have some good guesses, but the correct answer was fossilized stingray teeth. And so a shout out to our 4th and 5th graders in Bridgetown, Nova Scotia for this week's Curiosity of the Week. You guys nailed it. Good job. And keep an eye on your email. We have one more thing to do, and that is our new Curiosity of the Week. Let's bring it up here. Let's take a look at the new curiosity. You'll have 1 week to try and crack this one.
Welcome back, everyone. This week's curiosity are these 3 little objects here. Can you work out what these are? They actually come in all shapes and sizes, and they are very important in the history of our species, Homo sapiens. Can you work out what these are? Send in your best guess to classroom@darwin200.com for a chance to win a prize. Good luck and see you next time to find out the answer.
There we go. Classroom@darwin200.com is where you want to send your best guesses for this week's curiosity. So maybe if you can figure out what it is and maybe take a crack at what it's made out of, because it's a pretty unique material that this very important thing to our human history is made out of in this week's curiosity. Classroom@darwin200.com. 2 weeks for the experiment, 1 week for the curiosity. The last thing we need to do is a shout out to our sponsors, our partners, our supporters, without whom we wouldn't be doing these live events for classrooms. We wouldn't be sailing around the world. Darwin leaders wouldn't be joining us in ports all over the world. And the research that we're doing, like our eDNA samples and our coral transects, we wouldn't be doing those as well. So a huge shout out to our supporters, our sponsors, our partners. Thank you to those who tuned in today, those who will tune in later, and we will see you next week. We'll have a live connection as we're sailing across the Atlantic, making our way to South Georgia. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you soon.